Since the Kickstarter of the Oculus Rift back in August 2012, the talk about VR gaming has been ongoing. Now that we're at the point where devices such as the HTC Vive and the Oculus itself have finally been released, it would seem a good idea to look at how we got here. Like with the 3D boom a few years back, this may seem sudden, but most of this technology has been around here for decades. Here are 3 important moments in the history of VR gaming.
Everyone's gone Atari, the #1 video game.
In the late 70s and early 80s, Atari was king of all things video gaming. During this golden era, they made Battlezone. For those who don't know, Battlezone was an arcade tank simulator made by Ed Rotberg and Morgan Hoff at Atari in 1980. The game looked like nothing else at the time because of its early wireframe 3D graphics. What made the game a VR experience was the periscope viewfinder on the arcade cabinet. This was key as arcades were now starting to see competition from home consoles like ColecoVision and Atari's own 2600. Offering experiences you couldn't have in the home was crucial for continued business. Although it was only on one screen, not giving a true 3D experience, it did make gamers feel like they were driving a tank, making them feel part of the action. It's because of this, Battlezone is widely considered the first virtual reality arcade game. Although the game wasn't Atari's biggest hitter, it did manage to sell over 15,000 cabinets, which is pretty reasonable. The game's success even led to a version of the machine being made for the US Army to help train soldiers in vehicle-based combat. It was a big leap forward in first-person gaming, and people took notice. Unlike other experiences being developed at the time, this was something widely available to the public. You could just pop down your local arcade and play it. Its success as an early pioneer of this type of gaming has led to a new VR remake coming to the PS4 soon. The game was a solid start for the industry going forward. In 1991, Computer Gaming World predicted affordable VR by 1994, and they were almost right with our next entry. Although others came before, this probably was the best known and best selling consumer VR device of the 90s, which kind of says something about the market at the time as they couldn't even move 1 million units. Virtual Boy was Nintendo's monochromatic tabletop virtual reality console made in 1995 under the supervision of the legendary Gunpei Yokoi, the creator of the Game Boy. It earns its place in history by being the first home console capable of displaying stereoscopic 3D images. The device is effectively a set of binoculars on a stand, with 2 screens showing separate images to each eye. The device sold itself on VR, but most games didn't actually use it. What first-person games it did offer were a novelty at the time, such as the first-person robot boxing game Terror Boxer. The device suffered many problems. The technology just wasn't there yet. In early showings of the hardware, the public were not impressed. A lot of this was down to Nintendo rushing the system to market to cover the gaps created in the N64's launch. Many suffered headaches after a few minutes of play, and a warning for children under 7 not to use the device turned off many parents from buying it. All the games were fitted with an optional 30-minute timer to stop people playing them for too long. It didn't help that you needed a table to play on. No head straps were ever released for it. Unlike Battlezone, which was designed for a quick experience, this was meant for regular use. It just wasn't comfortable to use and didn't appeal to many consumers. Most didn't see it as more than a curiosity. Eventually, Nintendo gave up on the device under a year after its launch, and it caused Gunpei Yokoi to leave the company. The result of its failure meant VR was seen as a gimmick for years after its release. The concept was mostly left alone in the 2000s. Regardless of its fate, it is an important milestone in VR gaming. It did successfully bring affordable VR to the masses, even if they didn't want it. With the rise of 3D in movies stemming from the success of 2009's Avatar, it seemed like a good time to retry VR, especially now that computer technology had advanced greatly since the 90s. In mid-2012, Oculus announced their Rift headset through Kickstarter. The Oculus Rift is a VR headset for computers capable of HD graphics and head tracking. They had been prototyping the device for a year by the time they went public. Many huge figures in game development were vocal in their support for the device, most notably Doom and Quake creator John Carmack. People loved the device, and it became one of the most funded devices in Kickstarter's history. What makes it unique is its accurate head tracking. This concept was in high-end VR for decades, but now it came in a well-refined consumer device. After the Kickstarter, they made development kits available through their website, and they were selling 5 dev kits a minute after putting them up on sale. Its success brought them to the attention of Facebook, who bought the company for $2 billion, a deal that was not well received by its community. It is attempting to bring VR to the masses, however many are noticing how much it costs. Many will have to end up spending thousands to make the device work for them. It may be available to the masses, but at the minute they need fairly deep pockets. However, this is a start. Home computers of the 70s were really expensive, but now they are a device that practically everyone on the planet has access to. Just the announcement of this headset has brought VR back to the forefront. Other devices seem to be announced daily, with big hitters including HTC's Vive and Sony's VR attachment for the PS4. Even if the device does eventually crash and burn, it will be a huge leap forward for VR gaming. The device ships to consumers worldwide this year, and we'll have to wait and see how it turns out. Alright, those were moments in VR history. Let us know what you think is the future of VR. Are we heading for the Danger Room in X-Men, or is this going to be the pager of the future? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.